Sarah was sitting in her car with Chris and was heading toward her new house near the jungle, which was a little far from the city. She was shifting there because she had recently gotten divorced. But she didn't tell Chris about this. She just told him that his dad would come later. On the way, Chris asked where the bike was that Sarah had promised to buy him. Sarah said she would get it at the start of the year because she didn't have money right now. Hearing this, Chris got upset and said that he wanted the bike right now. Along the way, Chris kept insisting on the bike. Then suddenly an old woman came in front of Sarah's car and she barely avoided hitting her. Sarah got out of the car and went up to her, where she saw her scary face and strange clothes. The woman spoke in a frightening voice and said that this child will no longer be yours. Sarah tried to ask her what happened, but she didn't speak and just kept staring at Chris. Sarah picked up the broken car mirror, got back in the car, and left from there. After reaching her home, Chris was a little troubled by the fatigue of the journey, but Sarah spent good time with him, and the two of them kept playing. Both of them were playing their favorite game, in which they would make funny faces to make each other laugh. After the game ended, Sarah began to cook food. Just then Chris saw a big spider and got scared. Sarah caught it, put it in a bottle, and went outside to release it. Chris said that she should kill the spider, otherwise it could come back and bite him. He said that if his dad were here, he would have killed it. A little later, Chris asked why his dad hadn't come yet. Sarah told him that the situation was a bit difficult and that maybe his dad might not come. Hearing this, Chris got upset. In anger, Chris stomped on the spider with his foot and killed it and then ran off into the jungle. Sarah went after him and while looking for him, reached the middle of the jungle. There, she saw a big pit in the ground, as if some meteor had fallen. She got scared that Chris might have fallen into it, but just then, Chris came from behind and was fine. He apologized, and Sarah hugged him and said it's okay. Both came back home. At night, Sarah was on the couch and Chris was in his room. Just then there were some noises in the house. Sarah got up and first went to Chris's room to check on him. But as soon as she opened the door, she saw that Chris wasn't there. Sarah found the back door of the house open. She took her phone and went outside and kept calling out to Chris. But she got no answer. It was very dark, so she got scared that Chris might have gotten lost. She quickly came back inside the house so she could call the police. But just as she was about to call, Chris was found standing right in front of her. Sarah asked him where he had been. Chris said he was sleeping in his room. Sarah was stunned because she had searched the whole house and Chris was nowhere. Her mind got confused, but she didn't say anything that night. The next day, she went to her therapist and explained the whole matter to her, telling her what had happened. The therapist saw a red mark on Sarah's forehead and asked about it. Sarah told her that it had appeared earlier too, and sometimes it would swell up and turn red, but it didn't have any major effect, and it was nothing to worry about. After the session ended, Sarah returned home and cooked food. Then she called Chris, who was sitting in the upper room, downstairs. The voice was far, so she turned off the TV so that Chris could hear her. As soon as she turned off the TV and turned around, she suddenly saw Chris sitting at the dining table. Sarah couldn't understand how he had gotten there so quickly, but she didn't pay much attention to it. When she went to pick up Chris from school, Sarah saw him laughing and talking with new friends, and she was happy that he had quickly mingled at the new school. While returning home, on the way the same old woman appeared in front of her again, the one she had met on the first day. Sarah stopped the car, got out, and asked her why she kept standing in the road again and again. The woman again said the same thing, that this child is not yours. Sarah asked in surprise, how could her son not be hers? The woman said that Sarah should understand this truth in time. Just then that woman's husband, whose name was Max, came there. Max apologized to Sarah for the behavior of his wife Noreen and said that she didn't need to be afraid, just leave from here. Noreen moved away from there. But while leaving, she came to the window of Sarah's car. She started staring at Chris and pounding on the glass, and said that he should tell his mother the truth, that he is not her son. Then she banged her head on the glass and injured herself. Max grabbed her and took her away from the road. Sarah, seeing all this, left from there in shock. The next day, Sarah dropped Chris at school, and on her way back, stopped in front of Noreen's house so that she could check on her condition. She went into their garden, but what she saw there shocked her. In the garden, Sarah found Noreen's dead body. Her body was lying face down on her stomach, and her head was separated and buried in the ground. She was dead. After this, the police came to Sarah's house so that they could take her statement, because she was the first one who had seen the body. 2 detectives came. One sat down to talk to Sarah, and the other kept Chris busy playing so that he wouldn't hear scary things. Sarah was watching her son play with the detective, and suddenly she felt as if Chris was very strong and might hurt the detective. But just moments later, she realized that it was just her hallucination, and Chris was still playing in a normal way. Sarah went to Noreen's house to attend her funeral. She saw that there were many mirrors in the house, but all their surfaces were covered. Max came there and again apologized for his wife's behavior. He said that he now feels that Noreen has been freed from the pain in which she was living. Sarah asked him why Noreen used to say that Chris is not your son. Max told her that the same thing had happened with their son James too. When James turned 8 years old, strange changes started appearing in his behavior. That's when Noreen began to repeatedly say that this is not my son, this is someone else. And when her statements began to increase, she had to be taken to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist declared Noreen mentally ill, and her treatment began. But one day when she was driving the car, their son James suddenly came onto the road, and she ended up hitting him. James died right then, and after that incident, Noreen went into shock and was never able to recover. Hearing this, Sarah felt sad for her and left from there. Several weeks passed peacefully. Then one day, Sarah was exercising in the jungle and passed by that same big pit. There she found an old toy of Chris's that she hadn't seen for a long time. She picked up the toy and came back home, where she found Chris eating dirty food in a strange way. Sarah was stunned because Chris was eating that food with great relish, while he had never liked it. She told him that she forbids him from going deep into the jungle. Chris lied and said that he hadn't gone into the jungle at all. Then Sarah showed him that toy and asked how it got there. Chris truly got angry. He stood up and pushed the table with such force that Sarah collided with it. Sarah couldn't understand how a child could exert so much strength. Chris left her there and went up to his room. At night, Sarah was keeping an eye on him. When Chris was sleeping in his room, she heard some noises coming from there. She went up toward his room to look. Sarah quietly looked inside through the keyhole of the door so that Chris wouldn't hear her. What she saw scared her. Chris had taken off his clothes and was walking on his hands and feet like an animal, and he caught a spider and ate it. Out of fear, Sarah stepped back and made a noise. Then she quickly went into her room and closed the door. Chris heard her, and coming to her door said, "Mom, is that you?" Sarah replied, as if she had already been in the room. The night somehow passed quietly. The next day, she called a doctor home so that Chris could be examined. The doctor examined him, but didn't see any problem. Meanwhile, Chris was looking at her with strange eyes, which made Sarah even more frightened. An idea came into Sarah's mind, and she installed a small hidden camera in Chris's room and started recording so that she could find out what happens there. The next day at breakfast, Chris again started eating in a very dirty manner. Sarah asked him whether he was all right or not, because his behavior didn't look normal. Chris looked at her and put his hand on the wound on her forehead, which made her feel as if blood was coming out of it. But the very next moment, Sarah understood that it was just her hallucination. After this, Sarah went with Chris to school, where a singing performance was taking place. She was sitting with the other parents, watching Chris, and connecting all the events of the past few days, she began to understand that something was very wrong. Sarah felt that this child was not her son, because his personality and behavior seemed completely different. A little later, she felt that she was alone in the room, and she heard him singing in a strange voice, which scared her. Sarah immediately ran out of there. At the door, a mother stopped her, but before she could answer, her son and the school director arrived. Sarah got scared of them and, leaving the boy there, ran out of the school. After reaching home, Sarah picked up the camera placed in her son's room and watched the video. After seeing it, she got even more frightened than before. Taking the camera, she went directly to Max's house. She asked Max why there were so many mirrors in his house. Max said that those mirrors had been put up by his wife, Noreen, because she always used to say that the real truth of their son could be seen in the mirror, so he had let them stay that way. Here, Sarah showed him the camera video and said that in this recording it is clearly visible that the boy is not normal, and he is not her son either. What happened to her also happened with Max's son, meaning Noreen was neither sick nor was she hallucinating. Max refused to accept all this. He got angry and said that there was no problem with his son. Then he broke the camera. Sarah took the camera and returned home and started trying to take out the memory card. At that very moment, her son Chris came home and said that what Sarah did, leaving him alone at school, was not right. Sarah hugged him and said that she had been sick. Later, when she was preparing food, she mixed sleeping pills into his food. When she put the food in front of him, she noticed that Chris was still eating like a small child. After eating, Sarah went to him and said, "Let's play our favorite game." The game in which the two of them used to change facial expressions. Chris looked at her and said that he doesn't even remember this game. Hearing this, Sarah became sure that he truly was not her son. She directly said, "You are not Chris." As soon as he heard this, Chris was startled. Chris pounced on her and pushed Sarah so hard that she crashed into the wall and fell unconscious. Sometime later, when she opened her eyes, she found herself in the garden where Chris was digging a grave for her with his hands, exactly the way Noreen's body had been found. He was going to kill her in the same way too. But Sarah was lucky. Chris got tired due to the sleeping pills mixed in the food and fell unconscious right there. Sarah pulled her head out of the dirt. She dragged him into her basement. She remembered Max's words that Noreen used to see her son's real face in the mirror. Sarah picked up the broken mirror of the car and held it in front of Chris's face. Sarah finally saw his real face. It was not her son's face, but a scary alien-like face. The creature suddenly woke up and attacked her. He was in the body of a small child, but was very strong. Even so, Sarah managed to knock him down. When he screamed, the creature's real voice was heard. Sarah, leaving him there, ran upstairs and closed the basement door. After that, she set out into the jungle to find her real son and reached the same place where she had found her son's toy. Sarah jumped into that very pit and slid down a slope inside the dirt and went down into a narrow tunnel. She kept moving forward, crawling through the tunnel, and reached an open space. As soon as she went inside, she saw a lot of skulls and human bones. Sarah finally found her real son Chris, who was lying unconscious. She picked him up, but as she began to head out, she saw many more faceless creatures. While running, one creature grabbed her arm and right there transformed into an exact copy of her. Sarah hit it hard with a vine until it let go of her arm. Then she ran with Chris and got out of the pit. She laid Chris down on the ground and tried to bring him to consciousness, but he didn't wake up, which made Sarah panic. She picked Chris up again and went near the house so that she could escape by sitting in the car, but the car was locked. She placed Chris near the car and went inside the house to get the keys. As soon as she went in, she heard the creature's voice. The creature, speaking in her voice like Chris, was begging Sarah to open the door. But Sarah didn't fall for its trick. She picked up the car keys and then set the house on fire so that the creature would die right there. After the fire was lit, Sarah stood outside and kept watching the entire house burn. After that, she picked up Chris and went away from there. She went to a new city to live and started a new life with her real son, Chris. Sarah completed her studies, took up a job, and the two of them began to live comfortably. But now she had developed a phobia. She would often record Chris on the camera, so that if anything strange ever happened, his real form would be revealed. She had also installed mirrors throughout the house, so that she could always be sure that there is no change in her son.